Welcome to the Great Migration's Smarter Way to Upgrade video. In this video, we'll be looking at Great Migration's tool-assisted rewrite methodology and how it can help you get more upgrade for your money.
So if you've ever had to deal with updating a really critical but, really old piece of software, you know the feeling. It's the backbone of everything, but it's built on ancient tech, and the challenge is just huge. How do you drag it into the modern world without breaking everything that depends on it? Today, we're going to look at two completely different ways to get it done. All right, let's just get right to it. Whenever a project this massive kicks off, it doesn't matter what company you're at or what you're building. The conversation, always comes down to two huge questions that everyone from the CFO to the lead engineer wants answered, like yesterday.
Yep, there they are. The multi-million-dollar questions. How much and how long? These two things are going to shape every single decision you make from here on out. They're basically the two giant guardrails for the entire project.
But, before you can even start to put numbers on the cost and the timeline, you have to deal with this built-in dilemma. Every single one of these modernization projects is trying to do two things at once, and these two things can really pull you in opposite directions. So on one hand, you have to reproduce all the functionality. The new system needs to do everything the old one did, right down to the weird quirks that everyone relies on but nobody documented. That's a super precise black and white goal. But on the other hand, you have to actually upgrade the technology. The whole point is to make it better, right? More modern, more secure. And that's way more subjective, more strategic. It's a real balancing act. So how do you actually do this? Well, the first path is the one most of us probably think of first. It's the classic, the start from scratch, all manual rewrite. With this approach, your developers basically turn into software archaeologists. They're digging through old docs, they're interviewing people who've been at the company for 20 years, just trying to figure out what the system is supposed to do. Then they write everything again from scratch. And that's followed by, you guessed it, just endless rounds of testing to find all of the things they missed or got wrong.
Okay, but what if there was another way? Path 2 doesn't start with a blank screen. It starts with a totally different idea, and it uses automation in a big way. This is what we call the tool-assisted rewrite. Now, what's so cool about this is the change in mindset. This approach says, hey, wait a minute, the old source code isn't the enemy. It's the most perfect blueprint we have. It's the absolute source of truth for what the system actually does, not what some manual from a decade ago says it does. So instead of people trying to manually decode that blueprint and then rewrite it, you use really smart tools to just translate it automatically. This gives you way higher accuracy right out of the gate, and it frees up your best people from that tedious copy-paste work so they can focus on the fun stuff, the strategic stuff, making the new system genuinely better. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, but what does it actually mean for your budget, for your project plan? How does this difference in philosophy really change where your team is spending all of its time and energy? Let's look at the data. When you put these two approaches side by side, where your effort goes, and remember, effort is time and money, it just shifts in a huge way. Now look, both paths are a ton of work. They both need careful planning and a lot of testing. But where you spend that effort, well, that's a completely different story. And here it is. This chart lays it all out. The red bars, that's your traditional all-manual approach. The green bars, that's the tool-assisted way. And wow, right off the bat, you can see some massive, massive differences. Just look at this. This is the biggest change right here. The construction phase. That's the actual code writing. In a manual rewrite, it is by far the biggest chunk of your time and your budget. But with a tool-assisted approach, it just plummets. And it makes sense, right? The tool is doing all that heavy lifting, all that initial translation work for you. So the next big drop you'll see is in testing. And that might seem a little weird at first. A rewrite is a rewrite. Shouldn't it all need a ton of testing? Well, yes and no. The kind of code you're starting with makes all the difference. It's because of something called systematic production. Think about it. When a person writes thousands of lines of code, they're going to make little mistakes. A typo here, a small logic error there, it's just human nature. But when a machine generates that code from a consistent set of rules, the result is incredibly predictable. You get far, far fewer of those random human-made bugs, which means you spend a lot less time hunting for them. So, and this is really the key point, where does all that saved time go? Well, look at the technical design bar. It's actually bigger in the tool-assisted approach, and that's the whole payoff.
You're shifting your team's valuable brainpower away from manual grunt work and putting it into the high-level stuff, architecture, optimization, and making real, meaningful upgrades to the tech.
All right, let's pull all of this together. What's the bottom line here? It's pretty simple. When you change your method, you fundamentally change where you spend your time and your money. So with a tool-assisted rewrite, you spend less time just figuring out what the old system does, because the code itself is your guide. You spend dramatically less time on the actual manual coding. And you spend way less time on that initial bug hunt, because the code is just cleaner to begin with. And that all leads to this really powerful conclusion. This isn't just about saving some cash or finishing a few weeks early. It's about getting a better result. Your team can actually deliver a lot more of the upgrade part instead of just getting stuck in the weeds of the reproduction part. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. If you could take back all that massive effort that normally goes into manual coding and chasing down simple bugs, what would you have your best people work on instead? Where would you put that time and energy to really move your technology forward?
Thank you for watching. Learn more at greatmigrations.com.